Hey, what's up? Hello, welcome to Fantasy Filmball. It's Matt again with another week of a trip to the movies. I'm off to my first movie of the day. Just like last week, I'm starting at the Scotiabank Theater. I'm going to be seeing Twisters, which is an unexpected, huge box office success. I've never seen the original movie, so I didn't know that there was like an audience for this. Anyways, I'm running a little bit late, so I'm gonna get right into the movie, and I will talk to you right after. I feel overall mixed about Twisters. There's a lot that this movie is doing really well, and there's a lot that wasn't entirely clicking with me. Twisters is the sequel to the 1996 movie Twister, which I have never seen. All I know about the original Twister is the ride that used to be at Universal. Twisters follows the story of a young scientist named Kate, played by Daisy Edgar Jones, who's on a search to find a chemical solution that might disrupt tornadoes. And just as she thinks that she's discovered a breakthrough, she ends up losing 3 of her best friends, leaving her traumatized and feeling like her work is not worth it. But 5 years later, one of her friends drags her back into the tornado chasing game. And at this time, she meets Tyler, played by Glenn Powell, who is sort of a rogue YouTube influencer who's a little bit obnoxious, but seems to have a really good heart. At its core, what Twisters really is a classic American big budget Hollywood disaster movie. It's the type of movie that people are gonna walk out of saying, they really don't make them like this anymore. It's pure spectacle with an all-American setting, a classic Hollywood structure, and of course, a very American country music soundtrack. Like Top Gun Maverick a few years ago, this is the American movie of the year. It's also noteworthy that this is the first blockbuster from director Lee Isaac Chung, notable for the film Minari, which was an indie darling. And sometimes it's a little nerve-wracking to see an indie darling director take a step into blockbuster filmmaking. But I gotta say that Lee Isaac Chung does this very well. He really shows an understanding of blockbuster filmmaking, keeping some of his signature thoughtfulness, but also diving into a lot of Spielbergian sentimentality, as well as using a lot of very Spielbergian tactics of filmmaking. This is definitely not one of those circumstances where you get a young indie director and you just take away all creative freedom. It feels like there's really a reason beyond a studio paycheck that Lee Isaac Chung wants to make this movie. He grew up in the Midwest in Tornado Alley, and it seems like he has something to say about this topic. So even through the big spectacle scenes, it doesn't feel like this is directed by a studio. It feels like this is made by a filmmaker who has a point of view. The main issue that I have with Twisters overall is just the premise at the core. Twisters is taking a quintessential American disaster movie, something like The Towering Inferno or The Poseidon Adventure, taking that premise and almost shifting it into a monster movie. It almost feels like they're trying to turn natural disasters and weather into a Jurassic Park-esque monster movie. The way that they speak about tornadoes, the way that the tornadoes act, it doesn't feel like a natural weather pattern. It feels like a monster that's out to get everyone. In a way, that's an interesting spin, but ultimately I don't think it's very good for conflict overall. Disaster movies at their core, I think, are best when it's people fighting for survival, understanding that there's nothing malicious going on, that it's just simple act of God beyond the control of anyone. But I think by making it feel like a monster movie, taking that kind of approach, and even just shooting the tornado in a way that frames it like a monster lurking in the shadows, almost like, again, to reference Spielberg, almost like it's a shark in the water. To me, it just undermines the real human conflict. The set pieces are well done, but there's just something there that doesn't click fully. Anyways, I'm on my way over to the Carlton Cinema. I'm about to see Ghostlight, which I've heard a lot of great things out of Sundance about, so I will catch you over at the Carlton Cinema. I made it to the Carlton Cinema, and I'm here alone in the movie theater as the pre-show's going on. Got a question for you guys. Where do you like to sit in a movie theater? Because for me, I like to be up close, personal. I want the screen to be all I see, but that's not a popular opinion. Anyways, I love the Carlton Cinema. This is owned by Imagine Cinemas, which is a really great chain of theaters. Although Cineplex might have bigger screens, they have IMAX, Imagine really prioritizes comfort. This theater has regular seats, but most Imagine Cinemas have really great recliner seats, which I'll definitely have in some future videos. Also, it's so much cheaper. This ticket was $6, and it's a Friday. which is wild to me. You can't get that elsewhere. They also play lots of really cool older movies here. I was really debating today whether I should see Ghostlight or whether I should see Paprika. And I decided on Ghostlight because I'm sure Paprika will play sometime again. It's a classic that shows in repertory all the time. Highly, highly recommend checking out the Carlton Cinema if you get a chance to in Toronto. This one is one of my favorite theaters in the city.
Hey, asshole!
Daisy!
Say hi to Mom, cheater!
Excuse me. Oh, God. Is this a threesome?
It's for a play.
What play?
Okay, so I just got out of Ghostlight. Maybe you can tell my eyes are a little red and puffy, but I cried quite a lot during that movie. That just really hit me on a deep level. It speaks about so many things, about how certain generations, specifically men of certain generations, really have been taught to hold their trauma in, that to be manly is to only express your feelings through anger and nothing else. What was so beautiful about Ghostlight to me is how it explores that art, and specifically theater, can be such an opening way to be vulnerable in a way that we often don't allow ourselves to be in everyday life. This film tells the story of a construction worker and his family. He's clearly having some marital problems, and his daughter is going through a really hard time at school. As he is having this really difficult home life, one day at work he snaps. A local community theater group sees him as he snaps and screams at someone, and they invite him to be a part of their production of Romeo and Juliet. Eventually, he starts to access a deeper part of himself. And I won't go into any more plot details because this is a film that's really lovely to discover as it goes. It's not that it's surprising at all. I could definitely tell exactly what the hidden trauma was from the second that the film started. If you've seen any dramas over the past century, you probably know where it's gonna go. But the thing that makes Ghostlight special isn't its ability to surprise you with new ideas or new plot details. What makes this film special is the sensitivity that it shows and the way that it explores its themes, specifically the way that it handles how an entire generation of men is just simply unable to express their feelings. And when these things are said, when finally we get these bursts of emotion, when finally we have a scene with the main character monologuing to the camera for 5 minutes, it hits hard. The protagonist here is played by Keith Kupferer, and an actor who blew me away. He's one of those guys where you've seen him in everything. He's in so many films that you've seen, but you don't know his name. I was incredibly impressed by the depth of his work on screen, the emotional tension bubbling under the surface. It felt very recognizable in this generation. Again, this generation of men who never really learned how to express these emotions, or were told that expressing these emotions was somehow weak. Keith Kupferer's performance feels like it is an embodiment of all of our fathers, of all of our uncles, of all of our grandfathers, all of these men who are struggling to process the grief in their lives. Very notably, the family in Ghostlight is a real family. Keith Kupferer is joined by his wife Tara Mallon, as well as his daughter Catherine Mallon Kupferer, who plays his daughter also on screen. And she's a major standout in the film. She is exceptional. When we're watching these three on screen, we're watching a real family work out their issues through the theater. And that's what the film is about. Similar to Sing Sing, it's almost like life and theater are intermingling. The film isn't without its flaws. There's quite a few plot conveniences in the first act, setting up how we're getting into the theater. Also, the film isn't too visually unique or inventive. Cinema is a visual language. There's really no focus here on presenting things visually in an interesting or compelling way. This very much could have been a tale for the stage. And it's not really presented in a way that makes it feel like it has to be a film. But overall, the emotional power, the thematic resonance, the performances, a lot of the script outside of that first act, all is enough to make this a very impactful piece of work. Ghostlight is well worth seeing. If you're a big softie like I am, it'll probably have you tearing up in the theater as well. I'm heading to my last movie of the day. I'm doing a 3-movie day instead of a 4-movie day due to a prior commitment. So I'm heading down to the TIFF Lightbox, and I'm gonna catch a 70s Japanese movie called Lady Snowblood, a film that I've been meaning to watch forever, a film that inspired Tarantino's Kill Bill. I've just somehow never seen it, and now is my chance. So I'll catch you over at the Lightbox for Lady Snowblood. Just getting to the Lightbox now. If you don't know, the Lightbox is genuinely probably the best theater in Toronto. It is a massive 5-screen space that the Toronto Film Festival has built for themselves. It doubles as a movie theater and their main office building, their headquarters. They use it during the festival, and they screen new releases and really cool repertory stuff through the year. They also have a film reference library here, tons of posters, tons of memorabilia. It's honestly like a movie lover's palace here. So this is one of the coolest places to watch movies in the city. But I don't want to talk too much about the theater first. I'm just gonna go and rush to get into Lady Snowblood. So I just finished watching Lady Snowblood, 1973 Japanese samurai classic. And the inspiration for Kill Bill, I thought it was just like a few scenes that were going to be very Kill Bill coded, but it was really the whole movie. This is a story of a young woman who was tasked at her birth with avenging her mother, as her mother was attacked and raped by 4 people. So through the film, we are watching her hunt down and kill all of these different gangsters. Something I really dug about Lady Snowblood was the general vibe of it. While tons of Western movies took a lot of hints from samurai movies, as well as a ton of exploitation movies in the 70s, really stole from samurai films and cinema from Japan, it felt like this was reaching back and stealing back from them. This was very much an exploitation film. It had music that sounded like it was ripped straight out of a Western movie. So it was kind of cool to see how there's like a cycle of inspiration going on here, that the West takes from the East and the East takes from the West, and it trades back and forth. And the film has this sort of glorious, goofy style to it. It's over the top and wacky. It has freeze frames and moments that are just so deliciously weird. This is one of those movies where someone gets stabbed or slashed with a sword and just spray blood all over. And so it's easy to see why this has been such an influential and definitive action movie for so many filmmakers. It might have lost some of the spark that it once had. Kill Bill Volume 1 actually takes it up to the next level, makes it crazier, finds some of the missed opportunities that this one had, and goes all out for them, living up to the potential of every single moment. Here, it definitely feels like there's a little bit of missed potential, but it's very entertaining nonetheless, and definitely a classic for a very good reason. I'm wrapping up my time at the TIFF Lightbox, and I'm gonna sign off. Until next time, next week, I don't really know what I'm gonna be able to see because I'm not in Toronto. But if you got to this point in the video, thank you so much for joining me on my cinema adventures, hanging out with me at the movies. And as always, my name's Matt, and this has been Fantasy Filmball.